2022 is beyond over, so it's time for the internet awards show that you've all been waiting for, the Bun Awards, hosted by me, Nidstang, over on Under the Bun. I'm doing a top 5 games of the year this time around. Before I get into my list, I want to go over my rules for consideration. I only include games that were fully released in the year. This means no early access titles. I will include those titles in the year that they actually fully release. I also do not include new ports, remakes, or remasters. I do include reboots and sequels. I also do include DLCs if they add a significant amount of new content, like brand new levels, mechanics, and story, and aren't just treated as a continuation of the main game. I include indies and AAA games of all genres and length. So without further ado, here are the 2022 Bun Awards. First, 2 honorable mentions. The first one is Cuphead: The Delicious Last Course. I consider The Delicious Last Course to be a significant enough DLC to be considered for my top 5. It featured some new levels, brand new story, new weapons, and a new playable character, which added some new mechanics to the game. It was a brilliant DLC with well-designed bosses and beautiful animations, really great fun stuff. Well worth the purchase and playthrough, it just narrowly missed being in my top 5. The second is Quake Champions, which finally released out of early access in 2022. It's a fantastic arena shooter, featuring everything you'd want from the genre. Fast, skillful movement, several fun modes, a plethora of weapons to use, armor and health pickups, etc. In all honesty, Quake Champions would have easily made my top 5 if not for one single flaw. It's basically a dead game. There's barely more than 1,000 or 2,000 players on at any time, which is enough to find matches for sure, but it's definitely a niche game without a growing player base, and for a multiplayer game, that's a death knell. It's hard for me to put a multiplayer game in my top 5 when it doesn't have a thriving, growing community, despite how genuinely fun and great the game is. Now for the feature presentation. At number 5, we have Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles: Shredder's Revenge. Shredder's Revenge is a retro, arcade-style, side-scrolling beat-em-up featuring the Ninja Turtles. I'm a massive Ninja Turtles fan, and this game is chock full of Easter eggs and references to other Turtles media, especially the 80s cartoon and classic arcade games like Turtles in Time. The art direction and animations are gorgeous, featuring some of the best sprite art that I have seen in a game. The music is great, mixing together elements of 80s rock, synthwave, and hip-hop to create a sound that fits the Turtles vibe extremely well. It's also a really fun experience. Combat is tight and simple, yet exciting. It features 7 different playable characters: Leo, Raph, Mikey, Don, April, Splinter, and Casey Jones. I especially like the inclusion of Casey Jones because he's such a badass and often isn't included in expanded Turtles media. Look how fucking huge he is. They all play similarly enough where you don't need to completely relearn the game for every character or learn 100 different combos or anything, but they also feel different enough to make playing as all the different characters fun. The game also goes up to 6 players, which is awesome for parties and hangouts. It's also short enough to finish in a single sitting, which is extra nice for those multiplayer sessions. I will say that in order to unlock everything, you need to play through the story mode 7 different times, once with each character, and that can get pretty tedious, but if you break it up and play a bit here or there, it's really not that bad. I want to see more Ninja Turtles games come out, especially good ones, and I'd love to see a Turtles game that's not based on the 80s cartoon. I know it's the most popular and it's nostalgic and iconic, but I'd love to see another game based on the IDW comics, or the Mirage comics, or the 90s live action film, or even a more original take, like Out of the Shadows did, which was loosely based on a Nickelodeon show, but also just did its own thing. So long as it's not Rise of the Ninja Turtles, because that's really the only version of the Turtles that I don't really like. Coming in at number 4 is Elden Ring. Whoa, take it easy, don't shoot. I can already feel the anger seeping in because it's not high enough. I really like Elden Ring. It's great, I understand why it won the VGAs, and honestly I'm happy that it did. It's a really good game. I just prefer the other 3 games on my list a bit more. Elden Ring is a great RPG experience. It features many of the staples that make the Soulsborne games so great. An interesting world, unique enemies, cool weapons and abilities, amazing atmosphere, memorable NPCs, and above all, excellently designed bosses. Mechanically, the game functions similarly to the other Souls games. You have two hands to equip weapons and shields to, different armor, spells, miracles. You have your fast and heavy attacks, parrying, blocking, rolling, stats to manage, and a refillable healing item / bonfire mechanic. Elden Ring also adds the ability to jump and a horse to ride around on, which also adds horse combat. I know that these games are known for their challenge, but the difficulty from these games comes from needing to learn the mechanics and develop a build for your character. There's no unfair bullshit. It's a testament to the game's overall design. Treat it like an RPG because it is a RPG and you'll find success. One of my favorite things about Elden Ring is the mentioned atmosphere. Without any dialogue, the game is able to invoke intense feelings and emotions as you play this game. Excitement, curiosity, wonder, fear, and genuine hype. I've always found that Dark Souls games able to instill a feeling of dread better than most horror games that I've played. As you travel dark halls, unsure of what horror may await you next, and Elden Ring is no exception. I love how the game can make you feel a myriad of different ways without blasting you in the face with cutscenes and dialogue. It just lets you play the game and feel how you feel without telling you how to feel. And defeating a particularly challenging boss is always pure hype-filled bliss. You get such an adrenaline rush from just narrowly killing a boss. It's extremely rewarding and doesn't rely on a battle pass or arbitrary progression system or cutscenes to make you feel that way.
I am the Lord of all that is golden.
The world of Elden Ring is enormous too. It's the perfect game for people who enjoy exploring through and getting lost in vast, rich worlds. However, I feel the enormity of Elden Ring is also its biggest fault, at least for me. It's a little too big. I feel like every branching path opens up to 2 more branching paths, and before I can even backtrack to explore the areas that I've missed, there are more and more areas to explore, and I just feel exhausted and overwhelmed. There's like 100 bosses in this game, and it just feels a bit too much at time. You can probably easily spend 100 hours just exploring everything in this game. Still, Elden Ring is definitely a worthwhile game. It's incredibly fun and mechanically deep, with satisfying challenge, unique world and enemies, and memorable boss fights. And at number 3 is Kirby and the Forgotten Lands. I almost forgot that this game came out in 2022 since it came out so early in the year. But Kirby and the Forgotten Land was definitely one of my favorite gameplay experiences of last year. It was Kirby's first foray into a true mainline 3D title, and I would say that it was a very successful transition. It featured some great platforming, creative level design, fun challenges and puzzles, and most importantly, fun power-up abilities, with the new mouthful modes adding some nice variation to the Kirby formula. The new upgrade system was also a fun way to make Kirby's powers more powerful, giving you not only a stat boost, but a visual boost as well. I do wish there were some more powers in the game, but there is still a decent variety to be found here. There is a lot to the game, a ton of levels, mini-games, fishing, and a 2-player mode which sees player 2 playing as Bandanity. I've already done a full review for the game, so if you want to hear my thoughts in detail, check it out. But just know that Kirby and the Forgotten Land is a really fun and charming experience and an incredible transition into 3D for the franchise. And coming in at number 2 is Pokemon Scarlet and Violet. I did also really enjoy Pokemon Legends Arceus, so you can throw that in as an honorable mention, but at the end of the day, I think I enjoyed my time with Pokemon Scarlet even more. I was straight up addicted to this game for weeks. It tapped into my compulsive collector tendencies as I obsessively sought out Pokemon to complete my Pokedex, as well as variants for specific Pokemon. I still haven't been able to find a Rockruff to turn into a Dawn Lycanroc, or a genuine Sinistea, despite spending literal hours searching. But I did manage to find and catch every Pokemon for my version, with just a couple left that I need from trades with Violet exclusives and the 3rd starter. I've heard the complaints and criticisms towards Pokemon Scarlet and Violet, and I understand where people are coming from, but personally speaking, I loved my time playing it. I ran into 0 bugs or glitches in my entire time playing through it, and only minimal frame dips, and above all, I had a lot of fun playing it. I personally never crashed, or fell through the floor, or had any weird animation errors, or anything like that. I did a semi-review for the game already, talking about my early impressions with the first half of the game. I go more into mechanics and stuff there, and I do still intend to make a follow-up video discussing the game alongside Pokemon Legends Arceus, but I do want to take a moment to talk about how great the end of this game was. One of the early complaints I felt was that the game was too easy. Well, that was certainly rectified for the Elite Four, Championship Battle, and 4th main quest, where you have to visit Area 0. These late-game battles get pretty challenging and will push your skills. You really need to think hard about your Pokemon type advantages, your party's moves, Pokemon abilities, when to terrestrialize, when to use items, and what Pokemon your party consists of. It's extremely satisfying defeating one of the Elite Four, and feels really epic by the end of it. I also loved Area 0 and the time-displaced Pokemon, and the final battle here is really intense. The story opens up at the end here and gets really sad out of nowhere. It was unexpected and honestly made me care about the other elements of the story that I didn't care about a bit more. I finished the game with a party of Skeledirge, Haunter, Annihilape, Noivern, Hatterene, and Glamora. I fell in love with all of these Pokemon by the end of the game, but Glamora really stuck out to me. It's such a perfect troll Pokemon. It has a natural ability to drop poison needles when attacked, which affects every Pokemon that your opponent sends out. It can learn and is immune to Sandstorm, and with the added held item Rocky Helmet, you just create the perfect DOT machine. Anyways, Pokemon Scarlet became my obsession for a large chunk of the year. I loved exploring the world, even if it was a little barren at times and would have benefited from more involved NPCs. I loved hunting for and catching Pokemon. I loved thinking about battle strategies, parties, and movesets. It reinvigorated my appreciation for Pokemon as a franchise, and I honestly can't wait for DLC or the next mainline title. And here we are for All the Marbles, the very best game of 2022. Drum roll, please. If you follow me on Twitter, you already know what it is. It's motherfucking Raid Shadow Legends. Just kidding, I don't play that shit. It's actually God of War Ragnarok. If you follow my channel, you know I'm a huge fan of the direction that this series and... Wait, no. I didn't write this. The real, undeniable, absolute game of the year for 2022 is Shadow Warrior 3. Shadow Warrior 3 was robbed this year. It wasn't nominated for a single award. It got lukewarm reception from critics and fans alike, and all I have to say is, fuck you, because Shadow Warrior 3 is badass. Lo Wang returned with a bang. Shadow Warrior 3 is a fast-paced, balls-to-the-wall action FPS that took all the right notes from Doom Eternal to create an intense, satisfying, fun FPS experience. There's a large variety of guns and abilities and weapon combos. There's good enemy variation to keep combat encounters interesting. The resource management mechanics keep players on their toes as they manage various weapons to restore ammo and health. The platforming feels good, arenas are well designed, the story is satisfying, and the humor Shadow Warrior is known for is well intact. I reviewed the game at the beginning of the year, and as the year has gone on, the complaints that I made during that review were fixed with new updates and patches. There's a level select now, there's difficulty options which offer a more robust gameplay experience and encourage more repeat playthroughs, which is great because replayability is key for games like this. At the time of making this script, just today they announced the Definitive Edition update, which is going to add more difficulty options and a Horde mode, which is awesome. So please play Shadow Warrior 3. Not only is Shadow Warrior 3 my game of the year for 2022, but it's also my favorite game in the franchise, fixing the issues that I had with Shadow Warrior 2013 and Shadow Warrior 2, and building upon the foundation presented by the original Shadow Warrior to give the ultimate Shadow Warrior gameplay experience. Get your fix of Wang. And there we have it, the top 5 best games of 2022. What were your favorite games of the year? Let me know in the comments, and please remember to subscribe to get more Under the Bun in 2023.